on the Fan Upstate.
Put me in, Coach. I'm ready to play. Diesel College Baseball opening weekend is here, and we are ready. I just lost myself in my ears. I cannot hear myself anymore. Let me do this. Maybe is that better? There we go. Diesel is making some tweaks. We good now?
Should be good.
Should be good. Sorry, I lost myself completely. We are live at Ingalls Markets and Gear Highway and Travelers Rest. Would love to see you today. We're starting the show by talking college baseball right out of the jump. 1500 Gear Highway in Travelers Rest. We'd love to see you. We'll be here until 6 p.m. tonight, and we do have Furman basketball, so we are having to cut out a little bit early, but we're here till 6. And, man, college baseball season, it's here. Several of our local college softball programs have already begun. Diesel North Greenville baseball, just about 15 minutes up the road from where we are right now, is already 7-0 on the season. They play their 8th game here in about 30 minutes, just up the road. But Clemson, South Carolina getting going this weekend, and some really cool matchups this weekend as both teams are kind of starting the season like an airplane that hits turbulence on the way up. Diesel. Nobody likes turbulence.
No. But, these first couple games of the season, the first 2 weeks or so, it's designed for the programs, especially down here in the South, to play invitational to a lot of the teams up north. Usually you're not playing the powers from up north, right? You're inviting some of the smaller programs. You want to ease into the season, figure out rotations, tweak things. I mean, you can plan for as many contingencies as you want during the offseason, but you just don't know as much about your team until you get them into game situations. So you want to put yourself in a position where you can get out of the gate hot, feeling good about yourselves. You get your hitters kind of teeing off on some lesser pitching, so to speak, and then you get 10 games into the season, 15 games, and all of a sudden, bam, you're in conference play, and that's when it gets real.
And both programs starting with some injuries, and that's what's interesting. That's what's going to continue to be interesting about these two programs, both Clemson and South Carolina. Clemson's a team that's expected to be pretty good this year. We'll start with Clemson, and then we'll make our way to South Carolina. Diesel. Clemson ranked in the D1 baseball poll number 19 preseason entering the season. Eric Bakich in his 4th season in Clemson. We had on the show just a couple of weeks ago. Always love catching up with Coach Eric Bakich. But this is a Clemson team, Diesel, that has good expectations, has high expectations as they do every year. But I think before we dive into like the actual team, I think from a fan base perspective, from what I've gauged and what I've gathered, it feels like Clemson had so much momentum when Eric Bakich was hired, and they made so many early pushes, and they had early success, and it was almost like Diesel. It almost felt like, in a way, Clemson fans entering this year are almost to the point where they're tired of not Eric Bakich, but they're tired of talking about it. They want to be about it because they've had some really close games in the postseason. But ultimately, Clemson hadn't been able to get over the hump in those postseason games.
Yeah, and, I can't say that that's a bad thing, right? I mean, expectations sort of can dictate where your program goes. If you expect great things, you'll achieve great things. If you expect mediocrity or less than that, you'll get less than that. I'm happy for Clemson fans that they've come back around after, a long period of time where things were going great under Jack Leggett to where things sort of started to slow down just a little bit. And, they're back to that point. It's sort of back to that fever pitch that says this means the world to us, and it should, because baseball at Clemson is a proud program.
Clemson fans would love to hear from you, 844-326-3663, what your expectations are for this season, for the 2026 season, as the calendar has now turned. The Tigers, Diesel, host Army West Point this weekend. I talked about some turbulence on the way up out of the gate. You won't see Ariston Vesey this weekend on the mound, or not on the mound, but you won't see Ariston Vesey for Clemson. He's dealing with some penalties, some punishment, I guess, suspension from an incident he had, I believe, last weekend now. Drew Titsworth, you won't see him. You won't see Jacob McGovern. You won't see Colin Priest. So 3 of those 4 names I just named are all guys that came back out off of last year's roster. Eric Bakich said this week that Titsworth should be back for week 2. He has a strain in his arm and should be fine, according to Eric Bakich. But Colin Priest is dealing with a pulled hammy. Talon Bell and Aiden Canuck will probably start this weekend, as you can imagine. Aiden Canuck, one of the best aces returning to college baseball in 2026. And then you could also see Michael Sherman, the Tennessee transfer. He could also start this weekend. Clemson opens up, like I said, as number 19 in Division One. And I think this Army-West Point matchup in this coming weekend's series, 3-game series, Diesel, will give Clemson a good litmus test. They're not starting in Arlington like they did last year against some of the nation's top teams. They're not starting in Arlington like they will again next year. They're home this weekend, which I like a little bit of mix here and there. But I think Army, you want to go into this game or the series with a team that can actually provide some competition, because we all know how quick the turnaround is for Clemson and South Carolina, because they play each other really, really soon. And you want a good litmus test before that series starts, just to kind of gauge on where this team is.
Yeah, you got to get up to speed quickly. And like I was saying, these are the teams that give you an opportunity to face some decent arms, still not elite arms. You know, you're not playing the ULMs of the world to the bottom end of decent conferences. You're not necessarily playing the strongest arms either. So, like I said,
Real quickly, Coach Bakich on the hell of a baseball series from them. Bakich said yesterday they will not be intimidated level of competition right out of the gate. That was from Eric Bakich yesterday when he spoke to the media. I think you have to feel good before we transition over to South Carolina, Diesel, with Clemson. Yes, you did lose Cam Canarella, and we know replacing that guy's going to be near impossible, right, because of what he did offensively, but also defensively. But I think you do have to feel good if you're Clemson, bringing Aiden Canuck back. I think Aiden Canuck, when it's all said and done this year, will be one of the best arms in college baseball, and he's a guy that you can throw out there on that Friday against the competition every single weekend and feel like you have a shot. Now, outside of Aiden Canuck, I think you'll continue to see Clemson's bullpen improve, as well as the other 2 or 3 that will start on Saturday and Sunday for the Tigers. Again, these early injuries, I don't think that's really anything to worry about. But having Aiden Canuck, man, a guy who's been in the program, been with Coach Eric Bakich now for a couple of years, I think when you get into the meat of ACC play and when you do come around to the regionals, Diesel, having a guy in the postseason like Canuck, he's got to stay healthy. I don't want to say like Clemson's entire season rest on his shoulders, but they don't have a Cam Canarella. So 2 things. Number 1, Canuck's got to stay healthy. And the second thing is I'm really going to pay attention to who emerges in that lineup this year early. Not as the next Cam, because they're not going to replace Cam, but they're going to have somebody step up. And I think that's going to be a fascinating battle to watch.
Yeah, remember last year, in the last couple of years since Eric Bakich took over, this is a team that found ways to win in multiple ways for whatever reason. Eric Bakich hasn't brought in the prolific long ball home run hitters. Yep. Maybe those guys tend to go more towards the SEC than not. I mean, that's a deeper analysis on where the hitters are going in college baseball than I've ever done. But still, I mean, when you don't have those big time hitters, you got to find ways to win. You got to find ways to win with small ball. And I mean, we love watching small ball kind of baseball. To me, it's the more fun way. I mean, if it's home run or strike out, that's boring baseball. I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch a bunch of dudes get up there and strike out. I want to see guys moving guys over on base. I want to see base runners stealing bases. I want to see creativity out there, Cole. And it feels like until they get a sense of who they really are this season, with transfers coming in, again, you just don't know. Some of these guys are coming up from lesser leagues where they're going to be playing better arms or facing better arms on a game in, game out basis. You just don't know what kind of hitter they're going to be at this level until they get 15, 20 games under their belts.
And I think that will be interesting to see how this team gels. And I go back to what I said about the guys stepping up. Yes, we know what Aiden Canuck's going to bring, but I also think when you look for like the steady eddies, the guys that you want to be able to find in that lineup consistently all season long, the guys that you want to be able to find on the mound that are consistent for you all season long, Diesel, like a Jaron Purify, like a Joe Allen, those 2 guys, Purify and Allen, those are 2 names that I think Clemson fans they already know them, obviously, but those 2 guys, they should expect consistency. You've got to have consistent baseball. You've got to have consistent arms out of the bullpen. And Clemson's got dudes what they do in the portal, I think that's a big part of it. We'll see. That's the fun part of this new era we're in, is like we get to find out and see what these portal guys look like for your team, that you're bringing back guys. You have this continuity and consistency. How do these portal guys gel? So Clemson, Army, West Point this weekend. I like Clemson a lot. Obviously, not having Titsworth and a couple other guys will be a little bit of a bang for Clemson, but I think they're going to have a good start to the season. Let's flip over to the Gamecocks, though. Unfortunately, they did not dodge that turbulence there that I was talking about, Diesel, because of some injuries they've had already this season. And, what a bad time to have these injuries in second season for Paul Maneri. They open up with Northern Kentucky. Gamecocks obviously not ranked entering the 2026 season. And there's some good storylines with this team. Even though they do have the injuries that we've talked about, there's still some really good storylines and pieces that I think are going to be fun to watch for the Gamecocks.
Yeah, I did a little deep dive on South Carolina baseball, previewing their season for another show. And, Cole, when you look down at the list of guys they brought in via the transfer portal, again, The same is true. They're stepping up, facing tougher arms than what they faced at their respective schools. But Tyler Back, he came in from Wofford, hitting 325 with 10 doubles and 20 RBIs, and he's got some wheels on him. That guy is going to be a huge, huge factor for South Carolina this season. Patrick Evans, another infielder from Florence Darlington Tech, he was hitting 453. He knows how to put the bat on the ball. He hit 10 dingers last season. He's going to be a big piece. Jack Reynolds, another infielder from Florida, from Gulf Coast State College, 283, 4 homers, 40 RBIs in just 17 games last year. It's huge that they're getting Talmadge Lecroy back. He is a spark for this team. It's really unfortunate the way his season was cut short last year, because he was just ramping up from year to year to year, and he's a veteran in this locker room now. So when you have this many new guys coming in, you need to have somebody, especially like Talmadge, who was a Gamecock recruit out of high school, to tell them, to teach them what this program is all about.
And I think that's kind of why I give Paul Maneri a little bit of a pass for last year. Not saying like that he should have had the season that he had, because they were awful, but like this is where I truly start judging Paul Maneri, because of all the things that you just said with these new guys. Paul Maneri in his first year at South Carolina was playing chess with somebody else's chess piece, right? He wasn't able to really get creative with the roster. Now, they've had assistant coaches on that roster, or on that coaching staff, rather, that were there prior to Maneri, that were still there last year, that are still there this year, like Monty Lee. And I like those coaches there, those assistants, and I respect them a lot. But this is where, for me, this is where they're judged. I know they're battling injuries, but you're going out and getting guys that you just mentioned out of the portal. A lot of these guys, they've got to step up, and they've got to step up quick, too, because I'm not asking, we'll talk about the Las Vegas Raiders at 345. Same situation there. We're not asking Fernando Mendoza to come in and win 10 games next year. I'm not asking Paul Maneri to be in the super regionals this year, but I am asking Paul Maneri to be competitive. Like, they've got to be competitive in games, and they've got to actually have that will to win that they didn't have last year, Diesel. And I think, talking about a couple of guys to watch for Clemson, a couple of guys I'm keeping my eye on for South Carolina, talking about Steady Eddie and being consistent, it's KJ Scobie, right? No longer at third base. KJ Scobie is no stranger to shortstop, though. KJ Scobie going back to shortstop this season. He, in the time trials for the Japan team back during the offseason, he played shortstop there, was really, really good, played shortstop in high school. Scobie's a long returner, one of the lone returners for the Gamecocks this season. I look at KJ Scobie, man, and I'm not saying, hey, like the season's on you, but Diesel, that guy's got to have a big season in 2026.
Well, and we hope that he's getting healthy. Now, this news is a couple of days old. This has been out there for a couple of days, but he popped his shoulder out of socket in practice on a diving play. They popped it back in. He was x-rayed. He wasn't feeling any pain at the time. He's been standing in the box, seeing pitches, not swinging at pitches, but seeing pitches. I don't know exactly to where he's progressed since this reporting came out. But there's a guy that, again, that you need him to be at 100% starting the season. You need him to stay healthy all year, and he's been bitten a little bit by the injury bug. I can't imagine that your shoulder popping out of socket doesn't have some lingering effects over time, because it never happened to me, but I would imagine it hurts like hell.
Hopefully not. Hopefully it doesn't. He played and started more games than any other Gamecock a season ago, Diesel. KJ Scobie did. So when you talk about looking to like the glue guy this year, he's going to have to again, not carry the team, but he's going to have to be consistent from day one to the final day. He ranked as the number 11 shortstop in Florida in the class of 2024 by perfect game. So, like I said, he's no stranger to shortstop, right? Just because he didn't play there last year. He hit 257, 8 home runs, 27 RBIs, and the 191 at-bats in 2025. Scobie's going to be a big part of it. Obviously, you don't have Jake McCoy, but there are some of these guys that you talked about, like Amp Phillips out of South Carolina Upstate, USC Upstate, right here in Spartanburg. Amp Phillips is like coming in, immediate impact kind of guy, starting. And speaking of starting, Diesel, South Carolina announced their rotation for this weekend. They're going with redshirt freshman Riley Goodman on Friday. The second game on Friday will be junior Amp Phillips out of Upstate and junior Brandon Stone on Saturday. Brandon Stone, we talked about him last week. He was the Sunday guy for a large majority of the year last year, so he's no stranger to the rain, if you will, for the Gamecocks. But, man, you're going to have a lot of these guys like Amp Phillips come in and immediately impact the game. How they do that in the SEC, I think, is going to be fascinating. That's brutal.
Good luck in the SEC because there's no games off. There's no weeks off. There's no opponents off. Even the lower end of the conference, which is where South Carolina is still better than a lot of other teams. And they're going to be punching up week in and week out, game in and game out. You know, last year was a dreadful season for South Carolina. 28 and 29 overall, 6 and 24 in conference. I think, Cole, that as I've been seeing this hit that I did with this other show out there on social media, Gamecock fans are livid about what happened last season. They are not giving Pulmonary any time. They're not giving him any grace. They're not giving him any opportunity to figure things out with his own players. They want this thing back to where it was now. So at the very least, I say they need to get back to roughly 500 in conference this year. If there's another 10-win or less conference season this year, I don't know. Maybe there's a Gamecock fan out there who's willing to throw the cash out there to get rid of Pulmonary. But it's not going to be comfortable for him this offseason if they have another bad year.
Philip Moore on Twitter says, need Hollins to hit tanks, talking about Bo Hollins, the sophomore first baseman. No doubt. And he talked about it, Philip, that, you know, last year he was kind of just getting his feet wet. I heard an interview with him the other day where he expects to have a much bigger year. I think he hit 308, though, last year, if I'm not mistaken. So off the top of my head, if that's right, I mean, he wasn't horrible last year, but the team was. So Bo Hollins is obviously going to be a big part of it as well. And I think he will be. I think he's going to be a big, big asset to this team. Philip also says, did y'all see West Virginia named Kesin Cole out of Boiling Springs the Friday night starter? Philip, I did not see that. I appreciate you bringing that to the show, though, because I covered him and his brother, obviously, during high school at Boiling Springs. Know his dad real well. He listened to the show. Great guy, great guy, great family. He transferred from Clemson to West Virginia. Is that right? Correct me if I'm wrong there, Philip. But no, I did know he transferred to West Virginia, but I did not see where he was named the starter. So that's awesome.
Well, and speaking of Bo Hollins, he also got a little bit banged up in practice about a week ago. He fell on his shoulder, was getting better sort of on a day-by-day basis. He wasn't swinging the bat yet at that point in practice. And it was looking at the time like Patrick Evans, the junior transfer from Florence Darlington Tech, was going to move over and replace him and probably bat 3. Now, again, we haven't gotten a lineup for that opening series, that opening weekend, so we don't know exactly where Bo is and whether or not he's going to be back in the lineup. But I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him for the first series and Patrick Evans lines up out there at first base.
And I'm sorry, Philip, I think I said that wrong. Chanson's brother was at Clemson. Chanson came from Newberry. Is that right? Let us know on the stream or the text line. So that's awesome to see these transfers, man. It's hard to keep up with these transfer guys. It's, they're in a different place every year, but we appreciate the Tolos like Philip let us know, especially the local guys, man. We want to be able to spot like the local guys. We have Diesel in our audience in Spartanburg and Greenville County, and I'm not just saying this, some of the best high school baseball you'll find in this country, especially in Region 2-5A, especially with the likes of Dorman and what they're going to be this year. We've got some incredible talent, so we really need you guys to help us stay updated on it. It's a lot to cover.
Wasn't it nice when we only had to learn like 6 new names every season?
Yeah.
South Carolina this year, Cole, has 24
it's a lot.
incoming transfers.
That's a lot.
24. It's unbelievable.
I love it.
How many
Good
new
stuff.
names. But it's an exciting time to be a college baseball fan. And, you know, we've seen it, what happens down at Doug Kingsmore Stadium when the Tigers get hot. We've seen what happens down at South Carolina when the Gamecocks get hot, and around the SEC and the ACC. Like these are environments that are getting better every year. And, this is going to turn into must-watch TV. I really believe, how most college baseball games were getting buried on ESPN Plus. You never really saw that many of them on TV. I think we're going to start seeing more and more of them as these environments get better and better.
I love it.
So I'm excited for that. Hey, when we come back, let's jump over to the hardwood and talk college basketball with Evan Miyakawa of evanmiya.com. That'll be next right here on The Fan.
Upstate.
Live here at Ingles Markets, 1500 Gear Highway in Travelers Rest. Stop by. We'll hook you up with some prizes. Let's talk college basketball right now with Evan Miyakawa, college basketball analytics, the purveyor of evanmiya.com, M-I-Y-A. Evan, thanks for taking the time with us this week. As always, let's start it right here in the upstate of South Carolina. It is crunch time for the Clemson Tigers. It feels like their entire season has been in preparation for these last 2.5 weeks with ranked Duke, North Carolina, and Louisville on the schedule. We've talked a lot about the task in front of them, but historically speaking, Evan, is there any context for teams who have played a moderately tough but not brutal schedule leading into a stretch like this? Does it help them? Does it hurt them? Is it inconclusive?
That's a good question. I don't know if there's necessarily a historical precedent I can point to that says, like, hey, is this helpful to them or not? But I do think in general that a lot of teams really do struggle in like late January through mid-February just because it's kind of the tiresome part of the season when you're playing twice a week, but it's not quite close enough to March and postseason play that you're locked in every night. So I think in that sense, maybe it's helpful that their schedule's kind of backloaded because they understand the stakes are feeling higher and they're going to be more dialed in. And you know what? One of the things that sticks out to me about this Clemson team in general is, according to my analytics at evanmedia.com, they are one of the most consistent teams in the country when it comes to night in and night out. How well are they playing? They have been very consistent in the sense that they don't have nights where they play amazing one night and then horrible the next. Obviously, there are some swings there, but generally speaking, compared to most other teams, they're pretty reliable in that category. So I think you would hope that they can bring that level of consistency and that dialed-in nature that they have to some of these big upcoming games on the schedule, like you mentioned.
Evan, is Cole here, man. Appreciate your time as always. That's interesting. I saw that graphic you sent me, and the consistency is a good thing. But to play the other side of it, not being at the top of their game in terms of these other metrics, like I was looking at your player metrics the other day. You have to look way, 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 way down the list before you find the Clemson Tiger. Consistency is great, but is there could that be a double-edged sword in your mind for the Clemson Tigers as the schedule continues to get tougher?
It depends on what your goal is, right? If your goal is to safely get in the NCAA tournament, win a game, maybe two, this team is as foolproof as most in teams of their general tier when we're talking nationally. But does that mean they're as capable of maybe knocking off a Duke or knocking off a team that's a 1 or 2 seed in the tournament? Maybe not. Maybe they're not quite as capable of doing that as some other teams. So you can see it both ways because they might be more upset-proof when we get to the tournament, but maybe not quite as capable of knocking off a big team. But on the flip side, you might have a team that is more capable of going on having a higher ceiling, knocking off a bigger team, but more prone to an upset in the first round. So kind of pick your poison there.
Yeah, Evan, I don't want to kick dirt on the corpse before it's even cold, but this South Carolina team that we also cover is obviously done for the season. I'd be shocked if we don't see another mass exodus in April of guys going into the transfer portal. Are there pieces on this team that will be seen as highly desirable in the transfer portal? Or, in your mind, does the stink of a pretty bad season hurt them individually once they go into the portal?
Good question. I feel like in general, when you have a team like South Carolina who is just so underwhelming, there can be sort of that stink, like you mentioned. Now, obviously, sometimes teams, especially like mid-major teams, are looking for a team like a South Carolina that can say, like, hey, this general team didn't perform well, but there's still some pieces here that we can maximize maybe at our level. And I'm looking specifically at the top 2 performing players on this team this year were Michi Johnson and Mongolian Mike, and they're kind of head and shoulders above everyone else. Everyone else in this roster has been kind of mid or worse. So that's sort of what you're looking at with this roster in general. There can be some good pieces here. It is interesting because sometimes when you have a team that really underperforms, like a South Carolina, it's like the entire roster is all kind of graded pretty poorly in terms of their statistical output, in terms of their impact on team performance. I see more of a range with this team than most, where the best players are a lot better than the worst. So that's kind of interesting to me. But in general, the fact that they've had such a poor season in general isn't going to help any of these players.
We're talking to Evan Miyakawa, evanmiya.com. If you've never done so, man, make sure you check out Evan Miya's website. How does your best wins metric usually hold in the postseason? Like, does a team who finds its best wins during the course of a regular season, does that usually translate into the same thing in the postseason, them being able to knock off a team they're not supposed to, Evan?
If they can get there, and that is the key. So, like, one of the teams that we're talking about here is Wisconsin. Wisconsin, just yesterday goes into Illinois and knocks off Illinois, a team that I think is a top 10 team. They previously knocked off Michigan in Michigan's home building, which qualifies as the most impressive win on paper that any team has had this year. Wisconsin has 2 of the top 5 most difficult wins of any team in the country. But have they been a top 10 team? No, far from it. They have been very inconsistent in other games. And so, yes, if Wisconsin can find themselves in a position where they're playing a 1 or 2 seed in the second round or in the Sweet 16, that's kind of scary because they have shown the capability of being able to hit lots of threes and have a big game against a big opponent, but it's not a guarantee that they get there. And so the consistency, like this is the opposite end of the coin for a team like Wisconsin and Clemson. Clemson hasn't yet shown the ability to, have that level of performance, but they have been a lot more matchup proof across their schedule. Wisconsin has not been like that. So yes, if Wisconsin can get themselves in a position, I think you have a lot more faith in them than maybe some other teams of similar quality to knock off a top 5 or top 10 team. But it's certainly not a given that they would even get there in the first place.
Evan, I'm an alum of a Sunbelt school, and they just put belt to ass to the MAC in the Sunbelt MAC Challenge. Obviously, that conference is a one-bid league, and you've got to win the conference tournament to even get in to the big dance. But among those teams who won and looked good in the second leg of that tournament, did any of them do themselves favors as it comes to seeding? Did any of them show out enough or look good enough to maybe make that committee look at them and say, let's not automatically put you on a 15 or a 16 line?
Yes, good question. I feel like, let's see, which conference are we talking here? Sunbelt or MAC?
Sunbelt.
Yes. So I think the most interesting team in that conference, and this has been labeled as such since the preseason, is Troy. And one of the things that I like about Troy is that they have shown an ability this season, again, based on who they have on their schedule, they have shown the ability to play some of their best basketball against the toughest opponents on their schedule. They're one of the better teams in the country at doing that. They have beaten San Diego State on San Diego State's home floor this year. They also have a win against Akron, who is a very strong team this year. And even though Akron is in the same conference as Miami, Ohio, who's undefeated, I think a lot of people, myself included, might suggest that Akron actually on paper is the best team in that conference. They played USC to a very close game in multiple overtimes. So I think Troy is the team that I'm most intrigued by, but obviously it's not a given that they'll even get there because there's a bunch of other capable teams in that conference like Arkansas State and Marshall, for example. But I think that's the team that I'm most intrigued by. I think they do have the capability of being like a giant killer Cinderella if they can get to the tournament in that way.
Evan, what is the one I told you so metric that you use every single year? Because I know you talk to a lot of college basketball coaches, head coaches, and assistants. What's the one metric you say in the postseason, hey, guys, I told you so, that it was steady Eddie, that was consistent all season long, that actually carried into the postseason?
Oh, man, there's I don't know if I could just pick one. There's a lot of stuff on my website you can find. But if we're talking about I told you so's going into the postseason, I think something in general that I'm often monitoring is looking for teams that might be a little bit underseeded in the tournament and may perform better than what their seed line suggests. And specifically, it's teams that are really talented, that we have a lot of optimism for coming into the season, that really underperform during the year, but then are kind of moving in the right direction once we get to the tournament and end up having a lot more roster talent than maybe some of the other teams on their seed line. These can often be teams that go deeper in the tournament than we expect. I mean, I think the classic case of this back about a decade ago was the season when Kentucky made the Final Four as an 8 seed. They were supposed to be a top 10 team in the country that year. They really underperformed during the season, but they got hot at the right time. They had a really good roster talent. So this year, when I look at teams like that, it's often teams that have been, you would say, have been the most disappointing in the season. But when they get to tournament time, their roster talent is going to actually do them a lot of favors. So I look at a team like a Florida, for example, this year. They have gotten really hot recently, but they are probably going to have a much worse seed in the tournament than their actual team strength. So I would expect them to be a pretty hot, like, Elite Eight, Final Four pick. That's not going to be on the 1 or 2 seed line, maybe. You look at another team like, some of these underwhelming teams. Kentucky, for example, obviously has dealt with a lot of adversity this year, was hoping to be a top 5 team this year. I have them about 25th best in the country. That's well short of what they were hoping for, yet this team is going to have more talent than a lot of other teams that are going to be seated regular in their range. And so I think a team like a Kentucky, like a BYU, that those sorts of teams have the potential to make deeper runs in the tournament because at the end of the day, they're kind of going to come back to some of the preseason expectations that we have for them. And we see this often in the tournament.
Evan, not an analytics question, but can we get your thoughts on Kelvin Sampson's quote from, I guess it was about a week ago, where he said basically our program is poor, our athletic department is poor, and we need money. Did it ring a little hollow for you when he was saying these things at number 8 in the country? They've now bumped up to number 5 in the AP Top 25. They're obviously a really, really good team, and clearly it seems like they're prioritizing money being spent for basketball. But what was your reaction? How many miles of eye rolling did you do when you heard that quote?
I have a lot of respect for Kelvin Sampson, so I'm not going to overtly criticize him. But I think there's some context missing here. I think if you want to say he's telling the truth, what is he really talking about? It might be more about just the revenue share that the athletic department has as a whole to put towards things like, facilities and recruiting and things like that. But when we're actually talking about how much were you able to spend in your roster, there's not an ounce of truth in that statement. Talking to my well-embedded sources, like there's the claim was that Houston has less money or resources than all of the other Power 4 schools. That's just obviously not true. This roster has a ton of talent. They paid to get that talent. Maybe they are willing or able to get some of these players to go to Houston for less money than they might go for other places because they're bought into program identity and things like that. But no, if we're actually talking about how much budget did your team have to spend on a roster, they're probably more like a top 15, top 20 if we're being generous to his quote, rather than being the worst of the Power 4. So if we're viewing it that way, it's not very true.
Evan, if I'm a Clemson fan and I am looking at your player rankings, I mentioned this a minute ago, but going down the list, way down to 98, the first Clemson Tiger, R.J. Godfrey. Two-part question here. Why is RJ so far down the list? And then the second part of that is, talk me off of a ledge if I'm a Clemson fan that sees your player or your player ratings and says, oh, well, this doesn't really give me a lot of faith, a lot of confidence going into the postseason here in a few weeks.
Yeah, if you look at just the best players in the ACC, RJ Godfrey ranks as the 15th best player in the conference on my website. So again, that doesn't give you a lot of optimism that Clemson has a star player. But I think on the opposite end of the coin is just looking at where the top players rank doesn't tell you the full picture, because this team has a lot of depth. If you actually look at the ratings of all of their players down to your 7th, 8th, 9th best guy, I do think that is one of the strengths of this team, that they do not have to rely on one single player, that they have a lot of contributing players all across the board that they can trust. I think it's been talked about plenty that Godfrey is Clemson's leading scorer. He's averaging just 12 points per game. That sounds bad, but what that means is they don't need him to score 18 a night. 12 is fine. And they have a lot of other players who are able and, willing contributors who are reliable. And so, it does mean that, yes, you maybe don't have the star power of a team like a Duke or a North Carolina, but you have a really reliable squad. And so maybe the identity for this team, which has often been the case, is team over individual. Maybe that's not such a bad thing.
Evan, let's talk about last night's Miami home win over North Carolina. UNC, number 11, maybe getting a little bit of an appearance bump based on just the color of their jersey. But what did you learn about Miami that may push them up into the world of the ranked teams after that win? And maybe as a broader picture, as UNC got the big win over Duke, They follow it up with a loss. Duke loses against North Carolina. They follow that up with a big-time win last night against Pitt. What do your analytics say about teams who have the ability or don't have the ability to string together multiple big games in a row, especially as it pertains to tournament time?
Well, I think, on the North Carolina side of things, winning against Duke at home, certainly impressive, but that was not like a crazy outcome just because they have a good home court environment, especially in a rivalry game like that against Duke. Duke didn't play very well in that game necessarily. And so it's not a shock that they would then go on the road against a team that in Miami that is good enough to make the tournament, has a good squad this year, and, lose in the manner that they did. So I think that AP poll ranking of 11th, like you said, is giving them a lot of the benefit of the doubt there. I have North Carolina ranked as the 26th best team in the country. So there's a pretty big difference there. Obviously still very much an NCAA tournament team, but we're not talking about a team that consistently night over night has shown themselves to be worthy of a 3 seed or a 4 seed in the tournament. On the Miami side of things, I have actually been very high on this roster for Miami since the offseason. I actually think if you look at the difference between where I had Miami rated in the preseason and where KenPom had, which is often, the biggest comparing factor here, I had Miami as like a borderline top 40 team, which is about what they have shown this season. And I think KenPom had them as more like 80th in the country. I was just a lot more higher on this roster and what Jay Lucas was able to put together. And they've had some ups and downs, but a win like this over North Carolina shows what they're capable of. And, when you have a player like Malik Renew, who I think is quietly having a really good season and, going up from 13 points a game at Indiana to almost 20 at Miami. He's one of the best pure scorers in the country. You've got a lot of other pieces around him. This team has shown that they have quality, and that was an example of that last night against North Carolina.
Evan, last question for you, man, before we let you run out of here. When you look at a conference like the SoCon, and you may be able to answer this, you may not be able to, but I was curious. I was looking at your player ratings in the Southern Conference. We cover the SoCon with Wofford and Furman being right here in our backyard. Do you see a change? Have you seen a change over the years with your ratings for these Southern Conference schools now that the portal is as prevalent as it is? Meaning it's a whole new group, a whole new batch of players at these Southern Conference teams year in and year out now.
Yeah, that's a good question. I have not spent enough time watching SoCon basketball this year to give you a definitive answer. But if I'm quickly looking at, on my website, basically looking at the top-rated players in the SoCon year over year, as I'm glancing at this right now, it does appear to be that the best players, like the top-end talent in the conference, is significantly down this year.
That's what I was thinking.
So for reference, like 2 years ago, the best player rated in the SoCon had a BPR, which is the measurement that I use to measure player value, had a BPR of 6.0. Last year, the best player had a rating of 5.6. This year, it's down to 4.3. So that shows, and even within that, there's a pretty significant gap between the top player and going down to like the 10th best player. So yes, there is, at least on paper, a talent downgrade in this conference. This is obviously not just a SoCon issue. This is a issue with a lot of mid-major conferences. You're just not able to hold on to your best players because, high major teams are willing to pay them a lot more money. It is what it is, but yes, there has been a talent drop this year for sure.
Evan, you're the best. Greatly appreciate your time today. Always love catching up with you, man, and we will continue to send our listeners to your site, and we'll hope to catch up with you again soon.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Evan Miyakawa, evanmia.com. That's crazy, man. I hate that for those mid-major schools, but we'll continue to talk about it. Diesel, let's get to this audio from Clint Kubiak. Really interesting audio about him and Tom Brady, what the situation kind of looks like, that marriage looks like in Las Vegas. We'll talk about it, the audio, next on the Fan Upstate.
Clear.
1044 Fan Phone. This is Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
Well, I do think it's interesting when you talk about a brand new head coach, Diesel, and the city of Las Vegas, a new franchise, new-ish, right, where Clint Kubiak's coming in. I think that there's a lot of interesting pieces here. Now, I've got some audio with Clint and Tom Brady talking about Tom Brady. Maybe, Diesel, I'm being a little bit too excited. Tell me if I should, reel myself back in. I kind of feel like Clint Kubiak, Tom Brady, Fernando Mendoza, a new group of guys in, the front office making decisions. I kind of feel like there's a little bit of hope. I'm not asking for a Super Bowl next year if you're the Raiders, but I do see this as an upward trend. Am I buying this too much?
Well, it sounds like you're psyching yourself into a flight out to Las Vegas for a game and a little gambling.
Or be a Raiders fan, maybe. I don't know. If Tom Brady's not the general manager, right? But Tom Brady being a part owner, and we'll get to this audio in a second, I would imagine that, Tom's going to have, and I know he doesn't have full ownership stakes of the organization, but if they do get Fernando Mendoza's a heck of a quarterback. And if they have the right pieces around them, Diesel, I'm not saying, put all your chips on them this coming season, but let's hear what Clint Kubiak said when it comes to his relationship with Tom Brady in the front office.
Really excited to work with Tom, and he made the mistake of giving me his cell phone number, so he might wish he never did that because I'm gonna be calling him a lot. What I'm excited about is that we have different offensive backgrounds. We're gonna how we can pull ideas from each other, but obviously he's the greatest that's ever done it, and the interview process got me excited about the opportunity to work with them. That's one of the main draws to come here is to get to work with them, to get to work with Spy. These are great football minds and if we collaborate the way we're supposed to, then we're going to pull the best out of each other.
So John Spytek, you can feel that there, John. Appreciate that. John Spytek is the general manager. Tom Brady's a minority owner, I guess. He doesn't own most of the Raiders, but he's still got ownership, right? He's still very involved, Diesel. So with Clint Kubiak, who I think is going to be successful, I think there's a lot of optimism. The only thing that I didn't know, and I brought this up to you before we went on the air, does it worry you that Clint Kubiak's been, and I didn't know this, it took me hearing it out loud from Stephen A. Smith to realize it, he's been with 6 different teams in 6 years. Clint Kubiak has.
Either he is rapidly rising up the rankings because he's really good at what he does, or he has one heck of an agent. I don't know who's the better member of this team here, but you got to have a good agent to get yourself some jobs. And
6 though.
Yeah,
and 6 that's unheard of in the NFL.
I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. I've been in this job at this radio station for 20 years. So
I know.
Don't ask me about changing jobs
6
constantly.
6 years, 6 different jobs. I don't know.
Does it concern you a little bit though for Clint Kubiak to sound like he is very much in love with the prospect of picking Tom Brady's brain more so over his GMs?
Not if it works. Not if there's a healthy relationship between Kubiak and the GM and the player personnel, the right. Not if it works. Because if it works, nobody cares, right? But if it doesn't, then we've got issues. But I just think there's something there. I'm not saying overreact. I think there's something there. Tom Brady's the best to ever do it, and I'm not saying he's going to be a good owner just because he was a good football player. But I'm just saying, don't be surprised if this Raiders organization in the next 3 years catapults themselves into the postseason.
We have a text that just came in and says, do y'all know that it's in the Raiders, said they will not start Fernando Mendoza in his first year?
Well, that's a big part of it. What do? Do you go with Gino, right? Do you go with Gino and let Fernando learn for a year? I don't hate it.
They say things like that, but
do they mean it?
If you're not winning games,
that's right. People's jobs are on the line.
If you're 1-4 through game number 5, people start chanting for Fernando Mendoza real quick.
Yeah.
And Gino's had a good career. He's had good years in various places, but the shiny new toy. People want to see him out there. I love the prospect of sitting him for a year. I love giving him time to learn the system and also to let Clint Kubiak figure out how to be a head coach. Because there's nothing that can make a quarterback look bad like a coach that can't get plays in or that can't put him in the right situations or can't effectively call timeouts when you really need him to. All these things yeah, those are coaches' issues, but they all will reflect back on the quarterback.
It'll be interesting. It really
Yeah.
will be.
Cole, when we come back, let's jump into this conversation right here. Coming up here in the 4 o'clock segment, let's talk to Melissa Level, the marketing director of Ingalls Markets, right here on location at 1500 Gear Highway in Travelers Rest. That's next.
Clear.
1500 Gear Highway Tolos. That's where we are inside Ingles Markets in the Corner Cafe. Walk through the front door, take a hard right, and boom, here we are. You'll see Cole, you'll see myself, and you'll see Melissa Level, the marketing director for Ingles Market, sitting right here in front of us. Melissa, I know that the last couple of weekends, maybe not last weekend, but 2 weekends before that, probably a little trying for Ingles. But give us a little grade, a performance report. How did everything go?
They did fantastic, and I would have put it against the belt wall. I'm going to tell you, parking lot was full, 20 deep in all the aisles. I think the first one was a little more challenging for everybody because, the ice storm coming, people were much more fearful. The snowstorm, thinking, well, we have a lot of stuff, but we rocked it, and we rocked it for the Super Bowl too. We were so prepared. I went in on Sunday, and our fried chicken and the delis were stacked up high. We had all the stuff in the deli. I mean, there's just everything you could ask for, and I just like we did just such a great job at all three major events.
Back to back.
Ice and snow, then Super Bowl.
Right?
Yeah.
And now Valentine's.
I love it.
And then comes St. Patty's Day and all that. So it's 4th of July.
So to that point, as there's a lot of men in the audience, and we all know that men wait until the very last second, sometimes day of, to go out and get the things that they need for certain events. How stocked up are all the stores when it comes to flowers and chocolate and candy and all the cards and all the things that guys go out and get the day of Valentine's Day?
Oh, let me tell you, we are so stacked up, and we even have gift baskets. They're just lining the walls and right in front along the front window by the service desk. Beautiful gift baskets for all different kinds. And even if you don't have a sweetheart, but you want to get your staff something nice, we have like great staff Valentine gifts just to show the love this time. Of your friends that you just want to show they mean something to you. Because I think Valentine's Day is about love, but not just one kind of love.
Would it be weird if I bought one for Cole?
I wouldn't.
Oh, she said she wouldn't. So you're good. You got a pass.
Well, what's in the baskets? He might like it.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Melissa, let me ask you
but
this.
he is your work husband.
What was your reaction? I don't know if you saw this news yesterday or not, but Tiger Woods' son, Charlie Woods, coming to Florida State. What's your reaction? Will he be relatively close to what his dad was in your mind?
I think he might be better.
No.
And the reason
Melissa.
I think he might.
Don't do
I
that.
think he might last longer. Let me just put it that way. Okay, he might have a longer career. Okay, and the reason I say is because I don't think he's going to mess up like his dad did.
Well, hopefully not.
Right.
Hopefully not.
He's also the same age as Donald Trump's granddaughter, who's going to Wake, right? Who is 235th in the world.
Wow.
Okay, and female golfers, and so they his dad, Tiger Woods, is marrying Donald Trump Jr.'s ex-wife.
Wow.
Okay, so it's like I am my own grandpa.
Yeah. Oh, I know that song.
anyway, he's they're that connection. Wanted to stay in Florida because he's got his mother will be there now and everything, and so I was so scared that he was going to go to Miami, because he wanted to still be able to use Mar-a-Lago and everything is his home course. But I think that getting a little bit of distance but not too far away is perfect for him. But he's been through the ordeal, over and over again, and I think he realized what he can have if he stays with it.
What would his NIL look like at Florida State?
I can't even imagine.
I can't either.
I would imagine it's probably about $10 million. That was just saying. I bet it's $10 million just to get the win, and we might actually have a winning team. One winning team.
Million. That's more than your quarterback makes, Melissa.
Well, yeah, but we have a winning team. Unless, of course, he may want to play quarterback. Could he play quarterback?
That's not a bad
Could he
idea.
hit the ball with the golf club?
Yeah, I know. Well, you could put people that do basketball and football. You people that baseball and football, like
Golf and football.
Jameis Winston did baseball and football.
I know you can't mess up that swing.
Charlie
though.
Ward did. But I know. What happens if he breaks his arm?
How many millions did you donate to Florida State when you heard now that they have topped the scales for the program that is in the most debt in America?
I think that is a bunch of baloney. Okay, I know that they have debt. They can't. That's why they can't get rid of our coach. But I'm going to tell you, there is so much alumni money. Okay, and if you think of all the players that have gotten so rich because they played at Florida State over the years,
sure,
I don't think it's going to last long. And you know what? I think if everybody told the truth, there's a lot more debt out there at every university.
Yeah. Well, the big chunk of that is all the recent renovations that took.
Yeah, now look, when Clemson renovated, they were in debt. They got it back pretty quick. We had to do that. Next it has to be the basketball arena. It looks like the dungeon. If you sit up on the top, you're like looking at, ooh, it's England up here. You're like, I mean, it's like terrible. I mean, our facilities were the last thing to show for us. And so we, even with all the great history we had, our facilities were, we used to call our stadium the erector set.
Oh.
Okay, because it started off, believe it or not, as two stadium seats, like a high school, two facing each other. And then they built them on the ends on this and ends on that. Then they built up and then up on either side to the point where if you were on like the 80th row, okay, you could feel the stadium rock back and forth and back. And I'm like, you go to dad someday. You're going to leave a mark.
Melissa, this is a sports show,
Right.
but a lot of times we talk food, we talk, other things going on in the world, and it gets a lot of interaction. So because we do go off the rails sometime, I've got to know, what is Melissa Level's opinion on the whole Nancy Guthrie situation?
Distraction.
Distraction. You don't think it's real?
I don't.
Go more, please. Deeper,
So like a
please.
Big Lebowski situation, she
Well,
kidnapped herself.
No, I think that there's a lot of okay, all right, just knock, and this is not a reflection of your show and of the station, okay? Just to protect you. But there's probably some conspiracy things happening that, some people would like not to come out about elections and other things like that and fraud. And this is dominated, which is sad to me. 24/7, our news cycle.
Dominated.
Okay. If you look at it, there's 300,000 children a year kidnapped or trafficked. Okay. If that got that kind of attention, we wouldn't have that problem anymore.
Right.
Okay. It's either distraction or I feel like way overblown for some clicks and some opportunities to get people back into some of the national networks to look at them. So I don't know.
Not buying it.
There is something really weird about it. Okay,
It is. It's
there's
weird.
something really weird about it. I can't put my finger on it. It's like a mishmash. Okay, you got this really smart guy who wrote this really smart ransom note.
Yeah.
But the person they took a picture of grabbed a bush and tried to hide the camera. Okay, and plucks his eyebrows. Okay, I gotta get that.
His eyes do look like female eyes.
And if you look at the gloves, there's fingernails underneath there.
Yeah.
Like manicured thing, like somebody had a manicure.
Oh.
Okay, I'm not
Wow.
convinced it's a guy. I mean, they could have, she could be wearing like 8 layers of clothing. You don't know that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that we'll ever know the resolution to it. And I would watch the signs of this thing slowly drifting away, and we never really know. Kind of like the flight MS-370, right? Okay, where we never found the plane. Okay, disappeared. Yep.
Yeah. So that's good. That's
Woo,
good
it's
answer, by the
hard.
way.
It's hard to turn
It
off
is.
of that subject. Goodness gracious.
I love it. That's why I asked. I knew she'd have something like
To
that.
something equally as controversial. Maybe not
Are you
as
still on the air? Are we
controversial as
still
that.
broadcasting?
The NCAA had been on basically a Washington General style losing streak against the courts. College kids were raking them through the coals
Oh, yeah.
every single time they got in front of a judge. That seems now to be kind of turning the opposite direction. Trinidad Chambliss was denied. We had the basketball player from Alabama that was denied. Think about this now. We're 2 days away from Joey Aguilar's case coming before a judge in Tennessee. I mean, they try to make this about fairness, but to me, in an attempt to be fair to 23-year-olds that already chose to leave their sport
Lawfare.
or to come back,
right?
You're being unfair to the 18-year-olds that want to make their way into the sport. So
the whole thing's unfair.
how do you think the courts are going to look at this case with Joey? And that was based around the number of years that he was able to make money off of his NIL, not the total number of years that he actually played.
How many people in the court system, judges and lawyers, do you think are alumni of big universities that have been hurting since they've had that?
A lot.
I think they're going to start turning around just because they don't like the situation. Okay,
Well, they're
seeing
supposed
it
to
from a
look at it
different-
dispassionately.
Well, but they're seeing it from a different. They're looking at it from both sides now. Okay, they had nothing to look at it from both sides before, right? And I think so nothing about it is fair. Okay, but I do think that it's a situation where the whole tide is turning a bit. I think on the whole idea. I know I
fingers crossed.
Smell a vision,
Yeah.
but I do think that I think they're realizing that you can't have a university system and an athletic program and let the players run the gamut against it. And like, I'll go back and say this, like I say it every time you and I talk about it, all of us talk about it. If I was in a job and I was doing a bad job, okay, I would be fired. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If I decided to quit, I would walk away and I probably wouldn't be able to be hired again.
100%.
Okay. So that's, I mean, why are they any different? Now they're employees. Okay. Under an agreement. Why is that any different from, somebody that's making widgets?
And how is an agreement of a contract different from being an employee? If I sign a
It's not.
contract with Odyssey, I'm an employee of Odyssey.
Right.
I don't get to say, well, I'm an extra whatever
No.
employee.
Mhm. No, you don't get
I'm
to
an
say that.
employee because I'm on contract.
That's right. And it doesn't matter whether you're on the top level contract or the bottom level contract. Everybody goes by the same rules, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Okay, I know in our company, we all have the same rules and regulations. Some people, obviously, in higher positions get paid more than some other people, but it's the same thing. And you work in your, so if you decide to quit and walk away because there's not enough money, well, there's somebody else that's going to beat it. I can't come back and say, well, you couldn't fire me. You have to hire me back if I walked away. You
Right.
can't do that. You know what? Get in the real world.
Yeah.
Okay, these people are not prepared for the real world.
No, I agree with that. What were your thoughts on the Super Bowl, Melissa? Everybody in America across the world said it was boring. Did you think so?
I really wanted Drake May to have a good game because UNC.
Yeah.
I think he was the quarterback there. But I thought he had some inspiring moments. But in general, Seahawks were just dominant the whole thing. But I decided to go have a new nickname. I'm Good Bunny.
Good.
Oh.
I'm Good Bunny. Yeah.
Okay.
Really?
Good
Where's
bunny.
your ears? Your
Yeah.
rabbit ears.
Yeah.
Well, that's
they're in the
Easter.
car.
I was going to say Easter's not far around the corner. Melissa Level. I don't know her. It's Good Bunny. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I
Good
know
Bunny,
her.
yeah.
That's right. I know her. I love that.
I think it's interesting. There's gonna. I think that I thought the national anthem and America the Beautiful and all that was just outstanding.
Yeah.
And maybe I watched a couple minutes of the halftime and switched over to the Great American Halftime show, and it was outstanding. And I think the NFL just needs to just get back to playing football and having terrific, really great entertainers. The whole thing was a political statement for the middle. So I think they lost their second half of the audience, whether it was a boring game, but the commercials were terrific.
Yeah,
I mean,
they were good.
One of my favorites was a Jeep commercial with the wall fish that was on the wall, and the little boy, it's got those things that are on the wall.
Yeah, the big
river.
mouth Billy
Yeah,
Bass.
yeah. So he said, "Take me to the water, take me to the river." Okay, so he takes it off the wall. He goes, "Daddy, we have to take this to the water, right?" Okay, yes, but I don't really think it's going to be. Oh yeah, we got to take it. So they get in their Jeep, right? And they drive all across the country up to this incredible place, and he puts it in the water. And it moves, right? It swims away, and like, look, Dad, it really swims. And then all of a sudden, this bear comes and grabs it out of the water, shakes it around, and the fish is going, "This is all your fault."
Yeah. And the Dunkin' Donuts one was really
Oh,
good
that was
about
good.
that one.
Yeah, that was really great, and of course, Budweiser.
Yeah.
It seemed like they were willing. Some of these advertisers are willing to take risks again, right? They
Really
got
take
scared for a while. Now they're willing to
Right.
get really weird
Yeah,
with
the
it all
chest
over
hair
again.
one was really
Yeah.
interesting.
Which one did you like better, Dunkin' or Budweiser?
Budweiser.
I did too.
Budweiser
I
all
told
day.
him I did.
I call that the redemption spot,
Yeah.
right? For the whole thing. And I mean, it was the best commercial of this year, probably one of the best in the last decade at least. And and it had everything in there that there were true customers. It had Southern Rock, it had All America, it had the Clydesdales and American Eagle. I mean, they wrapped
good.
their audience up and said, "I'm sorry." The commercial.
And then they were there in person, the
That's
Eagle
right.
and the
And the
Clydesdale, right?
Clydesdale, right? Wasn't that adorable?
Yeah.
I just thought that was great. Yeah, there was a lot of fun commercials in
They
there.
were.
If East Carolina gets $100 million infusion from a billionaire YouTuber and wins a national championship, is it a legitimate national championship?
There are no legitimate national championships anymore.
Oh,
So that's, I don't know if you heard that. It's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Mr.
Yeah.
Beast,
But
right?
there's not a whole lot of clips of Mr. Beast saying, "Yeah, I'll put $100 million into
Yeah,
their
yeah,
NIL." There's just enough people saying it, like hoping that he'll say, "Okay, I'll jump in."
If he does, but it doesn't matter because Indiana. Let's just face it. You could buy your team now.
Well, the year before that, Ohio State had the most expensive roster,
And they won a national.
and they won the
Whatever.
national title.
Okay, and Florida State
Yeah.
had a huge NIL with Jared Verse and all of
Sure.
that. They would have won the national championship.
But then again, Texas spent the most money ever this year,
Yeah.
and they didn't win the national.
But
Didn't
they-
even
It
make the
doesn't
playoffs.
guarantee
But they
it.
didn't have. They spent the money, but they didn't spend it wisely.
Yeah. That's true. You do. You
Yeah.
have to.
You have to spend it wisely.
That's
You have to perform on the thing. And IU did. They performed amazingly. And but I just don't. I think it's just like anything else. You have the money to put into it, just like winning an election or winning a championship. They're not the same.
I just wonder if was it Mark Cuban put in a lot of money
Yeah,
in Indiana. I mean, I'm sure this year is validation for putting in that kind of money, but number one, billionaires don't like giving away 30, 40, 50 million a year, every year in perpetuity. And I mean, you've seen it from the business side and fans have seen it from the collective side. Eventually you say enough is enough. I'm not going to put.
Well, you have to put the people at top that will bring the people in that will perform. I mean, and just like any business or anything, if you have poor leadership, then you're not getting, a poor ADs, or you're not spending your money wisely. Once it goes back to that, but if you're spending your money wisely, the only thing is, everybody goes someplace else after this. So if not, you're not going to have the same people. You're not going to have that dynasty again.
No, you won't have a dynasty again. What I think, we've talked about this, what I think makes it challenging is, like, while anybody can spend money, you still have to have somebody that can evaluate talent and coach talent.
Right.
And, Texas, like Diesel said, they had a lot of money spent on that roster, but Indiana, I think talent evaluation, anybody can write a check.
Oh, they were great.
You know what I mean? But evaluating talent, a lot of those guys were 3 stars.
And all the way through the season, they performed.
That's what I'm saying.
Right,
16-0, yeah.
Right, and I think that's one. I mean, if you look at some of the wide receivers at Florida State that, several years ago, one of them had a completely torn ACL and blown out knee, right? And he said, I'll give you a chance. And he came back and nobody else would. And he was incredible.
Yeah.
Of course, he's with another team now, but that's how it goes.
It really is.
Have you been watching any Olympics? Have you been caught up into any of these stories?
Lindsey Vonn. I watched her.
Yeah.
I was really pulling for her.
Yeah. It turns out you do need an ACL.
Yeah.
To
it all went downhill.
It wasn't her ACL. She hit the pole on the starting gate. Her first run was flawless.
Didn't she wreck twice? Not wreck.
No,
but
she
the
wrecked
first
once.
one 2 weeks before that.
Oh,
okay.
Gotcha.
And she trained and she taped and she, everything.
Yeah.
And she, she rested and did all the physical therapy. Her first run that day was flawless. The second run, her pole hit the starting gate.
I hate when that happens. I hate when that happens.
Did you do that just yesterday? Or you would have won gold. I mean, I was out there like, you would have won gold.
This is a family show. Let's not talk about that.
That's terrible. Melissa Level of Ingles Markets. Locally right now, switching into a completely different season with baseball, softball happening. What's that look like for Ingles?
Spartan Burgers are coming in.
Yes,
of course, we're the official grocer for the Spartan Burgers. I'll be coming over the full high school schedule first, and then they go into their regular season. So
the college game there,
college games. We got the UNC at USC Upstate.
Yeah, that's
Wofford,
next week. That's right.
And so we've just got great things happening. You guys will be out at the ballpark with us and doing some things with us, and we'll be televising 15 games again on the CW. So, they can't get out to the park, but you should get out there because it's a lot of fun. And then, of course, we have the Southern Conference baseball tournament coming up at the Drive, and then Big South is at the McCormick Field in Asheville.
And the live show in Asheville for the basketball,
for the
right?
SoCon coming up.
Yeah.
And don't forget, you can now go and look at the Southern Conference SoCon Mascot Challenge. They're up and running, all the mascot videos. We did something like the TikTok challenge this year. So we sent everybody the official SoCon song. All the mascots came up with different routines, and they're they're really great. They're terrific. But get out there and vote. So the winner of that gets $1,000 donated to their athletic scholarship fund. And then we also donate on behalf of the college $1,000 to Hoops Against Hunger, which is our charity with Evelyn Charities for Hunger.
We love it. We can't wait. We're going to be spending a lot of time together, the three of us.
That's right.
The four of us with Jay over here as well.
You're going to be up there on the night, the championship night.
Yeah, we will.
Right,
on Monday.
the 9th.
Excited about it.
And listen, on Saturday, all of our stores have a fast lane. Okay, so it's like Lover's Lane. Okay, so if you want to get in and out of here really fast, you can just buy your flowers.
There
if
you
you're
go.
buying for Valentine's, you can go through Lover's Lane.
That's awesome. I love it. Melissa, you're the best. As always, appreciate you and what you do for Odyssey and the community. Melissa Level, Ingles Markets. We're going to the phone lines next. Lulu Kesin of the Greenville News talking Gamecocks. Dawn Staley, big matchup this weekend. We'll get into it with Lulu Kesin next.
to Wire with Cole, Bryson, and Diesel on the Fan Upstate.
It's time to talk Gamecocks with Lulu, Kesin of the Greenville News. And Lulu, I'm upset today. I hope you're ready. I am pulling a Vic Schaefer, and I'm just livid that South Carolina has had all this time off, all these days off before their big matchup with LSU. I don't think it's fair. I think something needs to be done about it, and I'm not going to stand for it. Is that a pretty good Vic Schaefer impression, Lulu?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Appreciate you coming on the show. A big one this weekend. Obviously, we'll get into that, South Carolina and LSU. But let me ask you this. What do you gauge South Carolina fans? You've covered this team. You've covered the fan bases in different sports. When do they really turn like full women's basketball? You know what I mean? Like right now, they're coming out of a really weird time where football was bad. Basketball has been horrible on the men's side. They're kind of optimistic about baseball. Has the attention in your mind already turned fully to women's basketball?
I think so. I think right around January, February, people really lock into women's basketball, especially because that's when conference play starts. I don't fault anyone. I think in general, when you like a lot of teams, basketball in college just starts so early. I mean, in the NBA, it does too. But I think overall, when attention is divided, it's hard to lock into basketball until January, February for at least the fans that do like both. But I mean, Dawn definitely still created a community of people that, lock in October for exhibition games. But if we're talking the general fan base that likes all sports, I think right about now is when people get really serious.
Lulu, tell us about what kind of storylines you're tracking and star power for this game. Obviously, we were all enthralled a couple of years ago when it was Angel Reese and it was Kim Mulkey and all those different storylines that made this game fascinating from a human interest side of things. But what are you tracking this year besides elite basketball? Because we know these are two really, really good teams. What other human interest storylines do you see out of this game?
Yeah, well, the obvious one is Miley Default Riley, right? Yeah. I mean, it's a hometown kid who went somewhere else. And I think that's the element that I look to most. A lot can be said about why she left. A lot of people have their own, theories and opinions. I think that the idea of just kind of needing a fresh start is something that she's consistently mentioned. I'm curious to see, it's a lot of pressure on her. And I think a lot of people look at it in the sense of, you want to prove something against your old team. There's no bad blood. I'm not sitting here saying that there's, any kind of tension, but I think just for her, that's why there's almost even more pressure because there isn't anything. It's not, no one did anyone wrong, but she does also want to prove, whether she'll say it or not, that she's making the right choice and that she made the right choice. I'm very interested to see the game being at home for her adds a different layer to it. Obviously, things would be a lot different if this was a return to Columbia. The lights are going to be bright for everyone involved. Like you said, elite basketball, the guards are really going to play a factor, but I'm curious to see just how, she lives up to the storylines in that regard.
Lulu, let's backtrack for a moment with Sunday's game, a couple of Gamecocks with big performances. What was bigger in your mind, Ernest Jones and him not knowing he had 11 tackles on Sunday, or Nick Emenwari, and that guy was great all season as a rookie?
Yeah, no, it was exciting. I loved, obviously, from my element, having Raven connected to Nick Emenwari. It just kind of gives me even more reason to kind of focus on that. But that was a hilarious moment when he realized that it was, him that had 11. But then obviously what Nick has done as a rookie is really impressive and definitely speaks volumes about, the recent success of Clayton White in South Carolina's defense for sure.
Lulu Kesin of the Greenville News. Big picture, Lulu, as women's college basketball has garnered more and more attention over the past 10 years or so, that's going to draw in more young athletes who want to join this game. And obviously that helps out the programs that, were traditionally not the most elite programs, that were not the UConns of the world, not the South Carolinas of the world. Would you say that the rest of college basketball is catching up to the top 5, 10, 15 programs? Or would you say those programs are pulling away from the pack?
Ooh, that's a really good question. And I think you can look at it two ways. I think it's very exciting how many good teams there are across all conferences this year, especially. I mean, I find myself glued to the TV for games I have no, tie covering wise, and it's just like a Ohio State, Iowa, or it's a Michigan, Southern Cal. I think the best part is that, I could say a lot of negative things about rev share and NIL, but I think a good thing is that it really kind of diversifies the talent across the conferences, and we're seeing sort of the repercussions of that, right? I do think there's still some separation. Like I won't lie, I think that UConn and South Carolina, UCLA, Texas, LSU, you put them and you can even separate them in different tiers right now. But I think overall there's still like a little bit, and I am wondering how the next 4 to 5 years looks like, and if NIL either has a good or bad impact, and rev share has a good or bad impact on what that means for these top level women's basketball programs.
Lulu, is that a good thing for the sport or a bad thing, with those teams you mentioned being in their own tier and then everybody else kind of being below them? And when you watch a game between South Carolina and LSU, there's a reason we tune in, because it's unbelievable basketball, but people aren't tuning in to watch Mississippi State and Alabama. Do you think that's a bad thing, and how you just mentioned rev share right there could make it better?
Yeah, well, I think it's exciting in the sense that, I feel you look at an example, let's take Alabama women's basketball. Realistically, we know that most of the money for Alabama will go to football, and deservedly so. That's where the money should be going. And I think that with that gives Alabama women's basketball a challenge, but also one that they're going to try to live up to. And I think that a good example to your question is that people are, there's 10 SEC teams in the AP top 25 last week. Like that made history. And so I think the SEC is getting even better. And, I think take someone like a Michaela Blake, Vanderbilt is not known for women's basketball necessarily. Obviously we know what happened with football and how they weren't really known for football and what Diego Pavia did. I think it's going to start, these stars are going to want to play elsewhere. And that's absolutely no knock on South Carolina or UConn or anything like that. But everyone has a reason why they go to certain schools. I know Michaela Blake's education was a huge fact, and obviously academically, Vanderbilt's a really impressive school. I think in some ways, as much as I'm worried that rev share might hurt elements of women's basketball and women's sports, I'm hopeful that the differing kind of reasons why people are starting to choose schools and the different people and level of talent that is coming out, I think we're getting really good games on nights and against teams where historically we didn't think we'd be tuning in.
You brought up football there, so let's pivot to it. It was announced earlier today that 4 South Carolina Gamecocks are going to be invited to the Combine. Rashul Faison, Nick Barrett, Brandon Cisse, and Jalen Kilgore. What can you tell us about their lead up to being in the Combine? Are they going to be doing their workouts on campus there at South Carolina? Are they going to be splitting off and going back to hometown? Sort of, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think it's different for everyone. I think that for the most part, I expect a little bit of outside of Columbia work. I was talking, it's funny, when I was doing the story on Nikki Manwari, Clayton was telling me a really funny story about how Nick's dad just didn't understand why he was in California and Arizona training for the Combine. It felt like so foreign to him. He was so confused. And so it's funny when people still don't really realize that that's a normal thing for you to sort of train and prepare out of state for things like that. But it's this exciting group that, invited obviously a little bit smaller than last year, but that's no knock to especially Kilgore and Cisse, I think have pretty bright futures in terms of draft selections.
Lulu, what was your reaction to Nick Manwari's mother? Did you see the video of her not realizing why the Super Bowl was a big deal?
Totally, yeah. So when I was talking to Clayton, in my story that I wrote, I talked about Nick's dad, who kind of had a similar thing, which is what I was just alluding to,
right.
Education is sort of their main focus. And so they're not fully in tune to the pageantry of what football is on the really kind of big scale. It was hilarious. She's adorable, and it was very funny. I'm glad that I'm happy for Noah, who got the video, and that it's making the rounds, because it's a very sort of wholesome moment that reminds us that not everyone has the same story leading up to a game.
Lulu, how did you spend the Super Bowl? What was the spread like at your house? And were you locked into what parts of the game were you locked into?
Yeah, well, honestly, even though I'm from Massachusetts and a Patriots fan, I missed a good chunk of it working the Tennessee game. I was lucky enough where some of my friends that cover Tennessee stayed with me. So I knew I'd be having people over, but all of us were working, honestly, up in kind of until the third quarter-ish. I did, catch the end of it. If I wanted to see what I saw, the Patriots definitely disappointed me in some ways, but at the same time, it was a good game. And to be honest, it's such a busy work week. I know this kind of sounds like a cop out, but it was such a busy work week and still is that my heart wasn't entirely invested in the game. And I kind of didn't expect the Patriots to be there in the first place, which definitely eased some of the pain.
Lulu, my last question for you. When you look at this matchup on Saturday, you talk about Malaysia Fulwiley. Obviously, that's going to be a big part of it, right? What fans are watching, and then Joyce Edwards on the other side. There's just so much familiarity, if you will, between the two teams, not only with Malaysia, but those two teams just knowing each other so well, being in the conference and having the matchups they've had over the past few years in the conference tournament and the postseason. What do you watch for? What in your mind is going to decide the game on Saturday for the Lady Gamecocks?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to come down to guard play because LSU is guard heavy. But in saying that, I think that means Joyce Edwards and Medina Okot really have to take over. I talked about Malaysia Fulwiley and everyone's going to, but, Michaela Williams and Flajay Johnson have been there and are huge and are difference makers. And, Michaela Williams had 20 points in the loss to Texas the other day. So I think it's going to come down to, we know Raven Johnson can defend, right? But can Tessa Johnson, can Isla McDowell, can Dawn potentially get back Agat McKeer and Maddie McDaniel, who are injured for the game? So I think Joyce Edwards has to go Joyce Edwards mode. And obviously Raven, whoever she defends, we know is going to give a good matchup there. But I think it's everyone around them that really matters because you can't count out what Flajay and what Michaela Williams are doing. Their point guard Jada is really good, and then freshman Grace Knox is having a good season. So this is a different LSU team than South Carolina's dealt with. They don't run their offense through a center like they did with Angel Reese and don't sort of run it through a rebounding machine like Anissa Morrow was last year. So it's really going to come down to how disciplined South Carolina's guards want to be, honestly, on both ends.
Well, you brought her up there. It got McKeer with her injury. If she can't go or if she's not full go, who has to step up and fill her role? I mean, I know she's a 6.5 point a night kind of player. Is it somebody like Isla McDowell or Maddie McDaniel that steps up, or is it some of the players that score a little bit more than her having to put a little extra?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to come down to Isla McDowell mainly because we know that she's the healthiest right now. Maddie McDaniel kind of oddly rolled her ankle last minute before the Tennessee game, and I think she's day-to-day going into Saturday, but I also wouldn't really be surprised if she doesn't play, which isn't great for South Carolina because she does give a lot off the bench. I don't want to put a ton of pressure on the freshmen, but I do really think you kind of got to trade a freshman for a freshman. Agat McKeer is a really good defender, and I think Isla McDowell, it'll be huge that she steps up too, but also Sanaya Laston played really good defense against Tennessee, so carrying that over will be huge too.
Lulu, you're the best as always. We appreciate your time. We'll talk to you next week.
Sure thing. Thank you, guys. Have a good rest of your week.
You too, Lulu Kesin of the Greenville News. Good stuff, and I can't wait, man. I can't wait. There's very few women college basketball games that get me going like the Gamecocks and Tigers, man. That one's just Kim Mulkey, Don Staley. It's must-see TV. I can't wait for it.
8:30 on Saturday. Cole, when we come back, let's see what else is going on out there. As a matter of fact, there's a lot going on out there. I don't know if we'll get to them all in one segment. Our Daily Wires coming up next.
Clear.
Let's go.
Mike is hot.
From the fields to the courts. And into the tracks.
Electrifying sports talk from start to finish
We're going wire to wire
with Diesel and Cole Bryson.
on the Fan.
Is hearing South Carolina Gamecock fans fuss and moan and complain every offseason about the toughest schedule every year since I've been alive on planet Earth. It never fails. Oh, my gosh, we have the toughest schedule you've ever seen. You won't believe it. It's just unfair. I don't know how we're going to win a single game every single year. Well, I've always said that's life in the SEC. You got to get used to it. That's what we're going to do, Diesel, in this very segment on the 11th day of February. Yeah, we're still 6 months from college football starting, but guess what? It's time for us to look at what they say are the top 10 most difficult schedules in 2026. This is from Crane and Cone. I formerly Crane and Company. I did not know they were Crane and Cone now, Diesel. Did you know that?
Yeah, they made the switch from oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name of the network they were on before
to On3, right?
To On3,
Gotcha.
right. So I would assume that now, and David Cohn is a big part of that show, has been for a very, very long time. So well deserved that David Cohn gets his name on the show.
On the show now,
especially because it's two brothers. Your two brothers, Crane.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
Let's get the third name in there.
Difficult football schedules in 2026. Is your team on it? We'll find out. Before we get into that, let's go to the phone lines, 844-326-3663, where you can reach us. Rick and Greer wants to weigh in. Rick, what's on your mind today, buddy?
Okay, number one, Clemson has a very tough schedule this year. That's not what I was calling about. But Clemson has a very, very tough schedule.
Yeah.
Number two.
Sarcasm. Go ahead.
Number two, you know who I'm looking for. I'm coming to y'all, and you better show up there, Dewey, Stewie, Louie, or whatever you name it.
It's pronounced Doofy.
Because I've got something for you, Dewey, a present. Okay?
You do know,
And
Rick, that we're
you'll
getting off the air at like 6:15 tonight, right?
And they have scanners at the door, so be careful what you bring in.
I'll bring there at 5. I'll be there at 5:30. So
okay,
I've got something for Dewey. Dewey, you be there at 5:30, and you'll love it, Dewey. Okay?
You think that's actually going to happen?
Be a man, Dewey. Show up. Okay?
Rick, we'll look forward to seeing Greer. Always a pleasure.
There you go.
844-326-3663. Tolos, we do want to hear from you, though, when we dive into this difficult schedule conversation. Do you agree, disagree? If your team's in it, again, 844-326-3663. The Joy Law Firm text line is open. That's how you can text the show. Phone lines, as you just heard from Rick, they're open, unfortunately, as well. And we would love to hear from you. So, I made the joke, kind of the joke, not really a joke, that South Carolina fans are always fussing and complaining about having the toughest schedule. Mm-hmm. I don't know what measurements and analytics, Diesel, that Crane and Cone have used to develop the 10 most difficult schedule for 2026, but I trust them, so we're going to go off of their rankings. Bad news. In this top 10, there are no South Carolina Gamecocks. There are no Clemson Tigers either. Let's start at the bottom and work our way up. Do you buy it? Do you sell it? Kentucky. The Kentucky Wildcats. I'm talking about football, Diesel, not basketball. Kentucky Wildcats in football have the most difficult schedule in 2026.
Yeah.
They open up with Youngstown State Penguins, because that's difficult, right?
Yeah, I've driven through Youngstown, Ohio.
I've never heard of Youngstown Penguins, but evidently it is a real school.
Kind of near
Bishop Sycamore.
Kind of near Cleveland.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So after they play Youngstown, is there a caller on, John? I hear something in our ears. I don't know if there's a caller. Is Rick still on? If so, will you disconnect him? Thank you. They open up. Kentucky football opens up with Youngstown State Penguins. After that, they host Alabama, which is tough, right?
Yeah, not a whole lot of time to get yourself ready.
Nope. They travel the next week to Kyle Field to take on A&M.
Ouch.
Tough, right? The next week they host South Alabama, so back to a game you can win, right?
The Sally Jags.
That's right. The very next week, Kentucky on the road at South Carolina. The very next week, hosting the LSU Tigers. The very next week, at Brent Venables, Oklahoma Sooners in Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium. The very next week, they host Vandy. Then they finally get a bye.
Oh, good.
Or they, put their bandages on,
a
right?
chance to breathe, finally.
And then they go to Neyland Stadium to take on Tennessee.
Will they still have a program at that point?
Good question.
Will he shut down for starting 0 and a million?
The week off, or the week after that, they have Florida. Then they go to Mizzou and finish with their rival in Louisville. So the 10th ranked most difficult schedule.
And that's 10?
That's 10. That's
my
that's my
God.
reaction. That was my
That's
reaction as
brutal.
well. So I, as of right now, before we've gone through the other schedules, I'm saying this is number one. I mean, this is the most brutal
Yeah, how does
schedule
it get
in football.
harder than this? I mean, Youngstown State and South Alabama?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Juggernauts.
Yeah.
Juggernauts in the row. No, I mean, Alabama, A&M, South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma. Realistically, you're looking at wins where? For Kentucky.
South Carolina.
Youngstown State Penguins. I give them a win there.
Yep.
South Alabama.
Yep.
I think at Carolina they lose. Vandy.
How good are they going to be without Diego?
Yeah. I think there'll be I think that's a coin flip game. I think
Sure.
Kentucky can win that game. They're not beating Tennessee or Florida. Mizzou, I think they can be competitive in that one. Louisville's going to be good this year. I think there's 3 winnable, maybe 4 winnable games on there.
Winnable?
Yeah,
Wins?
winnable.
I might go 2. I think they might go. I think they might go undefeated against G5 in the FCS, and they don't win another game after that.
So Crane and Cone has Kentucky ranked 10th, the most difficult schedule. At number 9, drum roll, LSU, the Tigers, is the 9th most difficult schedule. Why? Well, they open up with Clemson in Baton Rouge.
Win.
They then host Louisiana Tech.
Okay.
They go to Ole Miss. They host A&M. They then host the McNeese Cowboys. They go to Kentucky.
Baby.
They host Mississippi State. They are at Auburn the next week. Then they have a bye. And then the next 3 weeks are pretty tough. They go to Bama, host Texas, at Tennessee, and finish the season at Arkansas. Reaction to what Crane and Cone says is LSU the 9th most difficult schedule in 2026.
I think that's maybe a little more manageable than Kentucky's schedule. Not by much. I mean, this is still a really hard schedule.
Yeah.
You're still facing most of the same opponents. But I don't see how you say that is easier than Kentucky's at number 10.
Well, I think it's easier because they play Kentucky.
No.
I mean, I really do. I think they play Kentucky, so it's easy. I mean, Kentucky's going to be so battered and bruised, right? I'm with you. I think it's definitely easier. So I would, as of right now, I'm putting Kentucky at 1.
Okay.
You as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. According to Crane and Cone, number 8, and this might take us a while, so we'll try to get through these pretty quick. Number 8, Diesel, the Florida Gators. Crane and Cone says Florida has the most difficult schedule and the 8th most difficult schedule, rather, in 2026. Here are the opponents for the Gators in 2026. What do you think? Florida Atlantic. Then the next week they host the Campbell Camels.
Ooh, juggernaut.
Yeah, juggernaut. And then they go to Auburn. So you're talking about starting probably 3-0, right? Probably 3-0. So I don't think, as of right now, I don't think that's all that tough.
Nope.
Then they host Ole Miss, number 9 Ole Miss.
They should get them at home.
They do get them at home. Yep, that's big, right? Be big for Florida, first-year head coach. Then they are at Mizzou. They host South Carolina. They're at Texas. Then they're bye week mixed in there. They're off that week. Then they host Georgia. I'm sorry, that's in Mercedes-Benz. They play Georgia in Mercedes-Benz. Then they host Oklahoma, at Kentucky, host Vandy, and at Florida State. Difficult schedule, but is it?
No, I still say that's easier than both of the other two.
Yeah.
So far, I'd put Florida at 3.
Correct. I would agree with you. I don't look. It's the SEC. It's tough. You have to play Texas and Georgia back-to-back opponents. That's not easy. And then the next week you get Oklahoma. So there's a brutal 3-game stretch right there. It's still not, in my opinion, as brutal as the 5-game stretch South Carolina had this past season, Diesel. So as of right now, I'm saying, and I think you're saying, Kentucky has the most difficult schedule of the ones we've looked at.
I think it's by far.
By far. What does Crane & Company have next? At number 7, Diesel. Crane & Co. says Ole Miss has the 7th most difficult schedule in college football. So this means it's getting tougher. These schedules should be getting tougher, right?
In theory.
In theory. But I don't know how when you start with Kentucky's. What does Ole Miss have? They open up with Louisville. So I think a really fascinating out-of-conference game, right? That could be a lot of fun.
Neutral site game.
Neutral site.
Nissan Stadium in Nashville.
Yep. Jelly Roll's house, right? Then the next week they host Charlotte. Big win.
Ooh.
Yep, big win.
I think the 49ers now stands for how many yards they're trying to get per game.
Be close. Be close. I don't think
or how many points you might score on them.
Right. LSU the very next week in Oxford, and then at Florida before a bye. So the first 4 for Ole Miss is Louisville, Charlotte, LSU, and Florida, then a bye. So you got some tough games there, 2 of them, right? After the bye, at Vandy, you host Mizzou. So 2 winnable games there. I think Ole Miss wins both of those. Then you go to Texas. Then you host Auburn. Then you host Georgia. Then you go to Oklahoma. That is a really tough stretch there. 3 of the 4, Oklahoma, Georgia, and Texas. And then you throw Auburn in there as well.
You called it Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Then you host Wofford, the Wofford Terriers, before you host the Mississippi State Bulldogs. So here's the way I look at it. You have 1 test early with LSU. Then the very next week, Florida. How you respond to that Florida game or how you respond in that Florida game, I think is going to be interesting after that LSU match. Then you have a couple of weeks where you're in winnable games. And then that 3 of the next 4 with Texas, Georgia, and Oklahoma in there with Auburn. I think that's a very tough stretch. I don't think as a whole it's more difficult than Kentucky's schedule, though.
No. It's if I had to, without
I'd say second,
going back,
my opinion.
I got them at 3.
Okay.
Of those 4, but I could see 2. So yeah, we're right there, 2-3.
Yep.
With Ole Miss. I mean, it just their season is basically done on November 14th. No disrespect to Wofford, but think about it this way, Cole. If they have a loss, let's say they lose back-to-back games against Georgia and on the road at Oklahoma, they don't have any room to try to make up any ground in the mind of the voters.
Got to win those first 2.
You got to
win those first 2 before the bye. All right, Crane and Cone says Michigan has the 6th most difficult schedule in 2026. Michigan opens up with Western Michigan in Ann Arbor. No difficult schedule there. The Broncos finally getting out of the SEC and getting some new opponents here, are we, Diesel? So then after Western Michigan, they do, hey, SEC, they host Oklahoma.
Ooh.
How about that?
One of the biggest games of week 2.
No doubt. Brent Venables taking his boys up to Ann Arbor.
That's not that hard to do.
Sharon Moore would say otherwise.
Well, Sharon Moore's not the coach there anymore.
No, I'm not talking about
it's
the
Biff
football.
Poggi.
I'm not talking about the football. Dude.
Oh.
After that, Michigan host UTEP. Okay. After that, they host Iowa. Iowa will be a good team, but Michigan's still probably better, talent for talent, right, than Iowa. Then they'll go to Minnesota. So in the first 4. No, I said it right. 5. You have Western Michigan, Oklahoma, UTEP, Iowa, and Minnesota.
Okay.
1 tough game in there, right? Let's call it what it is. 1 tough game. Then you have a bye for Michigan. And then here we go. Here's where it gets tough. You have Penn State at your house. You have Indiana. By the way, they just won a national championship. Don't know if you know that or not.
Yeah, well, that'll be an Allerless Penn State and a Mendoza-less Indiana.
Thank God, right?
For their sake, yeah.
For their sake. Both of those games, though, in Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
So how about that?
That's helpful.
That's really helpful. And then you go to Rutgers, right? Winnable game there. Then you're at Michigan State to win that one. At Oregon, that's tough. That's where it gets tough. You know, in Eugene, Oregon's always going to be good under Dan Lanning. That's difficult. 2 of the last 3, Diesel, you have UCLA and the last one at Columbus at Ohio State. So a difficult schedule.
Yeah.
Especially after the bye where you have Penn State, Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State, the best of the Big Ten, and you don't get to avoid any. You know how last year they avoided 1 or 2 of those? You're not avoiding them this year.
I'd say this is fairly manageable. I don't think it's the murderer's row. Yeah, some of these teams are, garnering some preseason rankings, but again, I'm looking at Penn State. It's going to be going through a head coaching change, and a quarterback change. Indiana going through a quarterback change,
no doubt.
There's a lot of change here.
It's not 2025 Indiana.
It really gets tough, the last 3 weeks of the season with at Oregon, and then 2 weeks later on the road at Ohio State. So they have some tough games on this schedule. Certainly wouldn't put them number one. I'm putting them probably 3 right now. So I'm bumping Ole Miss's schedule. Do you think do you think that schedule is tougher than Ole Miss's? No,
I don't. Personally, I don't. I think it's tough, but
so let's bump it to 4.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Look, there's change, and I think that's a big part of it. There's no Mendoza. There's no Cincinnati's still going to be good. Indiana's still going to be good. But then I talked about it. Go back and look what I just said. You get 2 of those games at home. You get, 2 big games at home. I think that's a big part of it.
Where's Buckeye Mike telling us that this schedule is brutal, huh?
Now, the toughest game of the year, I think, are the 2 of the last 3, at Oregon and at Ohio State.
It could be one of those seasons where you're feeling really good about yourself, you're undefeated or one loss, and then you get to that last 3 weeks, and it all comes crashing down.
Michigan's not making the college football playoff in my mind. They'll trip up against Oregon and Ohio State. I think they'll also lose one more before that. I think they're probably a 3-loss team.
And they'll have to do it also with a new head coach. But it's Kyle Whittingham. So, I have faith in his ability to keep this thing running fairly smoothly. Maybe a short drop-off, but then, years ahead, 2 years, 3 years down the road, I expect Michigan to be back.
Okay, next, Crane and Cone has number 5, the 5th most difficult schedule in 2026, the Auburn Tigers, going right back to the SEC. Why do they have Auburn as the 5th most difficult schedule, Diesel? Well, they open up at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, a weird game, not weird, but interesting, against the Bears. Not Chicago, not Caleb Williams, but Baylor.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Lenore Ryan.
No, well, that was a good
They're
guess.
a university now.
Good
when I was a kid, they were a college. Now they're a university.
Lenore Ryan. I've been there one time, called a game there one time. Baylor is who Auburn opens up with. Okay, let's call it like it is. Good game. Not a huge.
Yeah.
Right? Not all. They have no chance. Auburn's going to have a chance to win the game.
Oh, yeah. I would expect them to.
So then they host Southern Miss, right? Win. They host Florida, new head coach, right? New quarterback. So some change, kind of going back to what you talked about with Michigan. So far, manageable for Auburn. Manageable. Then you host Vanderbilt. God. So, what are we talking about here?
A neutral site and then 3 straight home games?
Yes,
what is
that's
this
right.
schedule?
So maybe, just maybe, let's see what Auburn does. Maybe 4-0. It works 3-1 to start the season, right?
I would think so.
It does get tough after that. You go to Tennessee, right? Neyland Stadium is going to be difficult. Then you have a bye. Then you go to Sanford Stadium in Athens, take on Georgia. That's tough. That's a loss. Then you host LSU, loss. At Ole Miss, loss. But then, hear me out for a minute. You get you bring your head above water for a second. You have Arkansas at Mississippi State, and then you host Samford, S-A-M, not S-T-A-N. So, some winnable games there. We're talking maybe 6-7 wins right there total. And then you finish at Alabama, and Alabama-Auburn's always a good game. We saw how good of a game it was last year when Auburn wasn't good. So, hey, I don't know. I'm gonna overreact here. I don't think this is that difficult. I don't think it is.
When you got to go, when
there's 3 games.
You play at Tennessee, and just in time for your ears to stop ringing, you got to go back on the road at Sanford Stadium.
You get a bye before that, so you got 2 weeks to prepare for Kirby Smart.
Still hard. Still a hard schedule.
2 weeks to prepare though. 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's gonna be really tough for the
It's tough. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think it's
middle of the pack, top, bottom of the list. Where do you like it?
I'd say it's near. I'd say it's near the Rick and Greer.
God, Rick and Greer.
And you know what? I hope those aren't somebody else's pizza he's walking in with. Somebody. He said they were.
Somebody's
he
pizza.
just said they were.
Oh God.
I'm going to go middle of the top for Auburn.
Middle of the top. So between LSU, Ole Miss.
Yep. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Rick and Greer has shown up with Domino's Pizza at Ingles. Rick, when did you start working for Domino's? 19 years ago.
Wow.
I did not know that. Oh my gosh! Look
Dewey, he brought you a jersey.
Saints Super Bowl. And look,
Wow.
it actually, he says it's game worn. I don't know if it's game worn or not. He says it has the patch. No, it does have the patch.
It does have the
How do
patch.
you know it's game? How do we know it's game worn, Rick? Okay, what are you doing?
Is it? Does it have the stretchiness, or is that one of those old jerseys?
Are you serious? You're going to give it to us at the
Wow.
station?
Dewey can't have it.
Are
What
you sure?
talking
Yeah,
about?
Dewey's not coming. So
Dewey
we can
can't
have it.
that.
I'm going to show it to the stream for those
Wow.
watching. Is that Sharper? Darren
Oh.
Sharper, number 42. He says game worn. How'd you get this, Rick? He says he gave it to it, and you're going to give us to us. Well, if you
Oh,
ever
my
need
goodness.
it, you know where to find it. That's awesome, Rick and Greer. All right.
Thank you, Rick.
Do we have time, or do we need to push them off, Diesel, for the next 4?
Let's
Your call.
Let's push them off, Cole, to the last segment of this hour. So we'll catch back up at 5:45. All right, with these. How about that? When we come back, Cole, I know a lot of our Tolos are going to get a laugh out of this. Steve Spurrier being inducted into a Hall of Fame here in South Carolina, and he is, well, taking jabs at Dabo again, which he is wont to do. We'll play back a little bit of that audio next, right here on the Fan Upstate.
Clear. You got that live read coming up.
Well, he's here. Rick and Greer showed up like he said he was going to, brought pizza like he said he was going to, and then Dewey just didn't even show up.
I knew Dewey wasn't going to show up. I knew it. I knew Dewey wasn't.
And Dewey disappeared. I don't know what happened to Dewey. Hopefully he's on his way here right now.
He says Rick stole the pizza. You can always count on Rick, man. Always count on him.
Let's go to another caller that we can always count on. Tom in Somerville. Welcome into the show, Tom. What's on your mind?
Hey guys, y'all are talking about the schedules, and I'm surprised Cole's never heard of Youngstown State. The Broncos running back, he played there. The Jaleel McLaughlin, he played there in college. You also got Mark Mangino. For college football fans who remember Kansas being good, Mark Mangino, he played at Youngstown State back in the day.
And you know who their famous coach was?
Jim Tressel.
Jim Tressel.
No, I'd heard of them, Tom. I just didn't know they were the Penguins.
Oh, okay. Well, now, Diesel, y'all talking about schedule, Cole, and you said something about Spurrier getting into the South Carolina Hall of Fame. Can they please put a statue of Steve Spurrier in front of Williams-Brice Stadium? I don't know what it's taken the university so long to give the man the recognition he deserves.
They're waiting on your check to come in.
If they need me to build a statue, I'll get up there right now and build it.
Hey, Tom.
That thing should have been built 10 years ago.
Tom, you're going to build a statue for a guy who won how many SEC championships?
It don't matter.
Oh, it don't matter. Championships don't matter. Championships don't matter. What a low bar to set, Tom. That's pathetic.
Wouldn't you say that Steve Spurrier's accomplishments maybe deserve, his face printed on the side of a stadium cup, not necessarily a statue?
He's won more games than any other coach at that school, and he beat Clemson 5 years in a row.
That's a low bar, Tom. That's a low bar. That's pathetic. You got to win championships. How many SEC championships? How many SEC championships? And that was against who?
It was in
1959. That's the championship. So you're going to build a statue of a man who – how many – I didn't hear what you said. How many SEC championships did Spurrier win?
0.
Oh, like none. But let's build a statue of him, though. What are we doing? That's a waste. What are statues made of anyway? That's a waste of
good
money.
bronze.
I mean, come on. What are we doing, Tom? That's pathetic. You Gamecock fans are pathetic, Tom. Pathetic.
You don't make it gold. You make it like bronze.
That's a waste. That's a waste, Tom. Y'all got to get a higher standard, higher bar.
Why don't you make it out of aluminum while you're at it?
But anyway.
When
y'all were talking about
schedules, yes. We got to number 4.
Do we? Okay.
Yeah. South Carolina fans need to be jumping for joy, and we need to be sending letter thank you cards to the SEC office for the schedule that we got. There ain't going to be no excuses this fall about the schedule being difficult because, y'all said Kentucky, I wouldn't want to take that schedule at all.
Yeah.
And I am thankful because South Carolina, you look at the schedule, we can start 4-1. Maybe even 5-1 if you're lucky. There's a legit chance you can be 5-3, 6-2 going into November.
So Tom, without the excuse of having the toughest schedule in the country, have you Gamecock fans gotten together and decided what excuse you're going to use this year?
Oh, this year, we had our meeting. We have a meeting once a month, and this we met February 1st. And we're still voting on which excuse we're going to use this year. But, we've got a couple. Injuries is obviously on there. Offensive coordinator is going to be on there. A lot of new faces on defense is going to be on there. And, you got to keep this one on the back burner. Just the SEC is just so good. Arkansas. They might be better than what we think. Mississippi State might be better than what we think. And, wins and losses doesn't define how difficult your schedule is.
So would you guess, Tom, that the list that we're going to finish here in a minute, would you guess that an SEC school had the number 1 most difficult schedule?
I mean, based on what y'all already said, probably. But I don't know how you can say Kentucky has the easiest or the easiest of those 10.
No, they don't.
Because there ain't no way that schedule is easier than any of the ones above that.
No, Kentucky'd be like 5 for me right now.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen them all, but I mean, I'm sure because they're typically pretty biased towards the SEC. But you know, I would probably say that the SEC was right there at number 1 or 2.
We're going to finish it in just a minute.
Tom, we'll wrap that up here in just a minute. Appreciate the phone call.
Sounds good.
All right. Love
Thanks,
it.
Tom.
This segment's already gone off the rails. We got Dewey on the phone line, and we were able to find Rick all the way on the other side of the store and brought him all the way back over here. So let's put Dewey on the line and let Dewey explain to Rick and Greer why he didn't show up today. Dewey, what have you got to say for yourself?
First of all, I never said I was going to come. Second
That's
of all,
true.
it's 35.75 miles away from my house. I'm not going to TR. I don't even know where TR is. It's a little place in the mountains somewhere.
It does take a long time to get to, no lie.
You got to take a Sherpa. You got to get a donkey to bring you across the mountain range.
Dewey, it took an hour for me to get here, so I'm with you. Dewey.
Yeah, it's a long way. But no.
It's a long way for me, too.
Y'all need to broadcast out of Walmart. I'll go to Walmart.
Dewey, your mama wouldn't give you a pass or anything? She wouldn't sign that pass or anything?
No, I don't have no pass.
Dewey, Rick said
driver's license.
he brought you pizza.
I brought you pizza.
Rick said Daddy brought you pizza is what he said.
Does it have worms in it? Stink bug.
Dewey, how far do you live from Traveler's Rest, did you say?
35 point. I forgot what I said. It was 35 miles.
That's not worth
driving
long 35 miles.
35 miles is a long way.
That's not
That's a
far.
70-mile round trip.
That's a long way, Rick.
He drives that. He drives that for watermelon cantaloupe all the time. Okay.
35.
Next time you have to bring him some pizza and gas money.
Yeah.
I would have brought
Gas money, that'll work. Gas money and some hash brown.
I would have done that, but what I did is I brought my truck and I brought a cage out there, and I was wanting to have a cage match with you, but we can't do it now because
That'd
you
have been
didn't show
really
up.
good. That'd have been good. That'd have been spectacular.
But that's illegal, and we'll go to jail.
Tell him about the jersey you brought, Rick.
I brought you a jersey. Dewey.
Does it have a name on it?
Dewey. No, it's close to Dewey, okay, but it is a Super Bowl game-worn jersey of a player that played in Super Bowl 39 or 40.
He was going to give it to
what
you,
team?
For the who was it? I can't remember who the team was.
It's right there. It's right there on the table.
Is it Minnesota?
Yeah, it's Minnesota. It's
Saints.
Minnesota.
That's the Saints.
It's the Saints,
Rick.
It's the Saints, Dewey.
Jeez.
I thought you were a Saint fan.
He brought you a gift, Dewey.
I
You
brought
didn't
you a
even show
gift.
up to get it.
The Saints suck.
Oh,
They should go back to college.
Joe, anything else to say to Rick before we let you go?
Dewey, when you going to show up? I want to meet you and shake your hand and say sorry about the things I've been saying about you, okay?
Well, I'm sorry too, Rick. We can be friends.
Oh,
Will
I
you,
have been to Tom in Somerville.
will you
Y'all
write
talking
me
about
from
Steve
prison, Dewey?
Spurrier.
Will you write me from
Yes,
prison?
yes.
That's where you are. Now I know where you are.
Call.
Greenville County Detention Center.
yeah.
No,
So that's
that's
why
not
I'd always
30.
ask us to accept the charges anytime Dewey calls in.
Thanks, Dewey.
Thanks, Dewey. Good call.
25
God. Only Dewey, only Rick. Rick, appreciate you. And he did show up. Rick's
Yeah.
fixated
Rick's
on
a man
finding
of his
Dewey.
word.
He is.
Rick is a man of. He's come out to multiple events, at least 3 at this point.
Only the Tolos.
Yeah, it's this is great.
It is.
Well, now we got to make the tough transition back to Steve Spurrier bagging on Dabo Sweeney and the state of college football. John, let's play this audio. Let's jump right to that 426, 427 mark. See, he was asked if he would jump right back into coaching these days. Here's what Steve Spurrier had to say.
We set our goals very high, and when you set your goals high, you have a chance of hitting them. We didn't hit all of them, but we did hit a whole bunch of them during that 10 through 13 span.
Your thoughts about coaching in today's college football atmosphere with NIL and open transfer portal?
Well, I'm glad I'm not in it right now because I don't know that I would have liked that, but that's just the way it is everywhere. And you got to jump in there and get all your millionaire or billionaire alumni and say, we need a bunch of money to play these guys because that's what everybody else is doing. And so that's where it's at. The transfer portal, I don't like that particular. There should be some rules that maybe you can transfer twice or something. But these kids are going every year now, just every year somewhere or the other. But again, that's what it's all about. I think here at Florida, we got 50 new players going into next year's team, probably similar there at South Carolina. 20 recruits and about 30 transfer guys. So, and that seems to be what happens about every year with just about all the teams. But as they say, I read something in the paper about the SEC made over $1 billion last year. Did you hear that, Rick? That was in our paper. So the money's getting bigger and bigger, and the fan interest is greater than ever. So it's just the times we're in right now.
Pause the course right there, John, if you don't mind. You know full well that Steve Spurrier would have crushed in the NIL era. Like, that guy would be able to raise so much money for their program.
I just think he would have gotten so fed up with the players making all that money. Like, Spurrier was already paying players, but it wasn't any kind of money we're talking about now. So yeah, I just think from, hearing the way he talks about it, I think, and by the way, he's not the only coach in that boat. I just think eventually he would have gotten fed up with it and having to deal with the players making as much money as some of the coach, things like that. He wouldn't have loved that. So, well, he would have had to adjust.
He was also asked, and apologies for not having the exact spot in this chunk of audio here, but he was asked about Dabo Swinney obviously coming out and going after Pete Golding for the tampering rules and of rules violations. And he said that somebody needs to tell Dabo Swinney there are no rules.
No doubt.
So I guess Spurrier's still trying to coach up old Dabo up the road, and somebody needs to teach Dabo there's no rules to this.
No rules anymore. All right, on the other side, we finish our top 10 toughest schedules and some college basketball tonight. We'll get to it next.
Clear.
On the Joy Law Firm text line, Brandon in Spartanburg says, imagine somebody tuning into the show for the first time looking for sports and thinking, what kind of hillbilly show is this? Rick and Greer getting called a hillbilly. No, you're right. I can't imagine somebody's face if they just tuned in for the first time and thought, what am I listening to? But you know what? Guess what? You never know what you're going to get, right? Just like old Forrest Gump. Let's get to our final four on the most difficult schedules in college football, according to Crane and Cone. We hit Auburn at 5. Number 4, the Oklahoma. Then they go to Michigan. The next week, they host New Mexico. Then they're at Georgia. Didn't they have a bye week before they host Texas? But they don't get a bye week, so they have Georgia and Texas almost back-to-back. Ouch. So first 4, UTEP, Michigan, New Mexico, Georgia. The 5th is Texas. Then they have a little bit of a break there. They have Kentucky, Mississippi State, South Carolina. No break there, I'm just saying. At Florida, Ole Miss, A&M, at Mizzou. That's a pretty tough schedule with a Big Ten team that's Michigan. We don't know what Michigan will be in year 1 of Whittingham, but still a tough schedule.
Yeah, you only get 3 out-of-conference spots, and you schedule Michigan in there. Yep. What are you thinking? I know this is like a long-standing game that had been in the books. And, hey, congratulations and thank you to the both of them for keeping this game on the books, because they very easily could have run and hid and paid a bunch of money and thrown this game off the schedule, but they kept it on there. This is tough, man. I mean, UTEP, New Mexico, and maybe Kentucky, maybe Mississippi State are winnable games. Outside of that, it's tough. It's real tough. I mean, they win all the ones that I think are winnable games. That's maybe a 5-7 slate.
Yeah, it's a very, very difficult schedule for Brent Venables. Yeah. At number 3, Crane and Cone has the Texas Longhorns with the 3rd most difficult schedule. They open up with Texas State. They then host Ohio State. They then host UTSA before they travel to Neyland Stadium to take on Tennessee. So within the first 4 games, they have Ohio State and Tennessee. These are much like Oklahoma. Pretty tough out-of-conference game with Ryan Day, a rematch from last year.
Yeah, so we're doing this now where you just play one tough out-of-conference opponent and everybody else can be a cupcake, huh?
Well, there's 2 other ones, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't schedule 2 other tough ones. You just can't before you go into this gauntlet. Here's why. You then have Oklahoma, Florida, Ole Miss, get a break, Mississippi State, Mizzou. And when I say break, I mean that respectfully. Then you're at LSU. Then you have Arkansas, and you're at A&M. So here's the top 5 most difficult schedules in the country. I think we've read off probably 4 to 5 other schedules that I think are more difficult than this one.
Yeah, I'd put them kind of right there in the middle of that pack. I think maybe Crane and Co. have them. Crane and Cone. It's going to take some time to get that. It's just 2 more letters, but sometimes it's hard to get those straight.
I'm going to go like 6-ish.
I'd say put them about 5 or 6.
Yeah. So at number 2, Crane and Cone says Arkansas has the number 2 most difficult schedule in college football. Why? They host the North Alabama Lions to open the 2026 season. Hey, if it was D2, back when North Alabama was D2, that would be a tough out. But Arkansas should win that one. They're at Utah the next week, number 25. Tough. They host Georgia. Then they're hosting Tulsa. Then they're at A&M, hosting Tennessee, at Vandy. And they have a bye. Mizzou at home, at Auburn, South Carolina at home, at Texas, hosting LSU. Pretty tough.
It's a real tough ending to that season with a road game at Texas and then a home game against LSU to end the slate.
Here's the reality of it, Diesel. If you don't beat Utah, if you lose to Utah, you're 1-2 after Georgia, right? And then you'll beat Tulsa 2-2, but then you have A&M and Tennessee. The problem with Arkansas is you're trying to stay near 500. And I don't know that real quick win-loss, I don't know that they do stay above.
Right. I mean, you got North Alabama is a win. Tulsa is a win. At Vandy, I think Vandy's going to take a step back this year.
Could be a win.
3. Missouri at home. I'll give them that one.
See, I'm not going to give them Vandy and Mizzou.
But they'll get Mizzou off a bye, though.
Yeah.
They'll get Vandy, and then they'll get Mizzou off that bye.
I don't love Arkansas.
I don't have another win. I got them at 4 wins.
I think 3 or 4. I think 3 or 4. It is a tough schedule.
Time for them to join the Sun Belt.
It is
They ain't
a
winning anything in this
very,
conference.
very tough schedule. And then that leaves one, Crane and Co., the number one most difficult schedule in all of college football. The only team, or one of the only teams we haven't talked about yet, Ohio State, out of the Big Ten, has the most difficult schedule according to Crane and Company. Why? Well, here you go. They open up with Ball State. Then they travel the very next week to Texas, a rematch from last year in a game in which they won, right? This time it's on the road. They then host Kent State. They then host Illinois. Then they're at Iowa. Then they host Maryland. So as of right now, you got Ball State, Texas, Kent State, Illinois, Iowa, and Maryland. That's 6 games. I don't really think that's real difficult.
No. I mean, Iowa's going to be pretty decent. Illinois, maybe. We'll see. I mean, they were good last year.
Well,
up to a
Ohio
point.
State Diesel, they could be 6-0 right now.
Yeah, they very well could be.
They could be 6-0.
Going on the road at Texas is certainly the single really big test
That's the
in
big
that
one.
block.
That's
But
the big
I wouldn't expect them until they play on the road at Indiana October 17th. I could certainly see them at 1-5 or 5-1 at that point.
I could see them at 5-1 or 6-0.
Sure.
So then they have the bye week. I'm sorry. Let me back up one. I missed this one. After Maryland, they're at Indiana. Very tough, but there's no Signetti. Right now, if this game were played tomorrow, I'd pick Ohio State. I just think they have so much coming back.
Oh, yeah.
Julian's saying, look, Indiana's going to be good, but you get them. It's at Indiana. I understand, but I don't know. I like Ohio State to have a good year. So then they have a bye. Then they're at USC. Southern Cal, they're overrated every year. We know that. They're going to be overrated. Then they host Oregon, which is extremely difficult, Diesel. Then they host Northwestern, at Nebraska, and they host Michigan. So a tough schedule, right? Because you do play the best teams in your conference, which is what you're supposed to do. And then the one out-of-conference big marquee matchup is Texas. So it's a tough schedule, but I'm going to tell you something. It's not tougher, in my opinion, than Kentucky's.
No, I think Kentucky's is probably one. I'd probably put Ohio State at maybe like 3.
I was thinking 3. I was thinking 3 or 4, yeah.
In that list. So, it's tough. And I'll give them credit for if they do well against this schedule. But, man, on the road in L.A., Oregon at home. 2 weeks later, you're on the road at Nebraska. Next week, you're playing your rival in Michigan at home. That is it's not the toughest because you get some of your biggest opponents at home again this year.
There you go.
But still, you're playing tough.
Diesel and I are flipping it. We're going to put Kentucky at number 1, the most difficult schedule according to Diesel and I. That's just the expert opinion. That's all we're saying. But my gosh, Kentucky, like Tom said, I wouldn't touch that thing with a 10-foot pole.
Cole, when we come back, I have a special new menu item that you might be putting on your Super Bowl plate next year. I'm going to throw this at you. I want to hear from the Tolos as well at 844-326-3663 and see if you would be willing to try this as well. That's next.
Clear.